polygenic inheritance. So far আমরা O levels যেগুলো পড়ে আসছিলাম, those were all monogenic inheritance. একটা trait controlled by one gene. However, সবসময় যে একটা trait একটা set of gene দিয়ে regulated হবে not necessary. In fact, most of the traits that we have or most of the characters that we have in human, they are regulated by polygenic inheritance. Polygenic, the term itself has two parts. Poly means many, genic means genes. So several genes are working together to regulate a particular trait. So এখানে এটা দিয়ে আছে, and you can also see the definition which is also in your book. One interesting characteristic about polygenic inheritance is that আমরা তো বললাম it's about a single trait controlled by several different genes. এই যে several different genes, they are usually located at different chromosomes. এই কথাটা এখানে বলা আছে। Several different genes at different loci. This means, in terms of polygenic inheritance, they are regulated by several genes. Also, these genes are either located in different chromosomes অথবা same chromosome থাকলেও তাদের locationটা different হবে. For example, if one of the gene is located over here, the other one will be located further apart, for example over here. Okay? So, just to review, polygenic inheritance means single trait controlled by multiple different genes, and these genes are located separately at separate points in the same chromosome or in different chromosomes. Another thing to understand about polygenic inheritance is that usually polygenic traits যেগুলো আছে, they are also influenced by the environment. So the polygenic traits are being influenced by several genes as well as the environment. This means any trait or any characters that are polygenic in nature, ওদের ভ্যারিয়েশন কি বেশি হবে না কম হবে? বেশি হবে, কারণ অনেকগুলো ফ্যাক্টরস ক্যান প্লে আ রোল ইনটু ডেভেলপমেন্ট অফ দিস ক্যারেক্টার্স। তাহলে এই ক্যারেক্টারগুলোর ভ্যারিয়েশন অনেক রকম হতে পারে। ফর এক্সাম্পল, হিউম্যান হাইট। পি প্ল্যান্টের ক্ষেত্রে হাইট ইজ ভেরি সিম্পল, আইদার ইজ গোইং টু বি শর্ট অর ইটস গোইং টু বি টল। কিন্তু হিউম্যানে কিন্তু ব্যাপারটা এমন না। ইন হিউম্যানস there are people who are tall, there are people who are short, there are people who are extremely tall. Yes. So that's the thing about polygenic features. তাহলে আমরা দেখলাম যে এখানে ভ্যারিয়েশনও অনেক বেশি। polygenic যে ক্যারেক্টারগুলো বা polygenic trait, এইটারই আরেকটা ভ্যারিয়েশন we can say dihybrid or digenic inheritance. এখানেও we are talking about a trait which is influenced by two sets of genes. Let's talk about polygenic inheritance. Like example, although this is not exactly appropriate example of polygenic inheritance, but I think this is a very simple example to understand. So, এখানে আমরা তিনটা trait দেখতে পাচ্ছি. First trait is for fur color. Let's think about a cat. একটা ক্যাটের মধ্যে অনেকগুলো কালার থাকতে পারে। So imagine there is a cat which has white color or it has single color, or say the cat can have single color or it can also have multicolor. Next, let's talk about fur pattern. A cat can have a solid fur pattern, solid but plain একটা fur pattern, or it can have stripes. Another thing is, imagine a cat has, for the second trait, that is for fur pattern, it has inherited an allele which is supposed to produce a striped pattern. However, in case of the first trait, which influences the fur color, এখানে সে একটা single color gene inherit করলো. Now, you have a single color, but then you are also supposed to produce stripe. দুইটা কি একসাথে সম্ভব? না। তার মানে যখন সে single fur patternটা পাইছে, তখন সে পরবর্তীতে stripe pattern পাইলেও it's not going to express. So the final coat pattern is going to be a single solid coat. তাহলে this third trait or the second trait is being influenced by the first trait. তাহলে ওর overall যে code patternটা, it is being regulated by several different genes. So we can say that this is an example of a polygenic inheritance. এর ছাড়াও আমরা আরেকটা example দিতে পারি. Say you have inherited cystic fibrosis, and we know that one problem with cystic fibrosis is that these patients are not very good at digesting food and absorbing the nutrient. So even if you have inherited allele for tallness, still since you are not being able to extract the nutrition, তোমার overall height কিন্তু ultimately tall হচ্ছে না, you're being short. So again, height is a trait which is influenced by several different factors or several different unrelated genes. কারণ তুমি চিন্তা করো, হাইটের সাথে কিন্তু সিস্টিক ফাইব্রোসিসের কোনো রিলেশনই নাই, but still that gene is influencing your overall height. So again, that can be considered as a polygenic inheritance. There are many other examples of polygenic inheritances. For example, your eye color, your weight, your intelligence. These are all examples of polygenic inheritance because many factors will add up to give you your final weight or final intelligence. Next comes dihybrid inheritance. Already আমরা explain করলাম যে এখানে হচ্ছে দুইটা different gene মিলে একটা factor কে influence করতেছে. Now এখানে তোমার বইয়ের মধ্যে অনেক complicated জিনিসপত্র দিয়ে আছে because it is actually very complicated. However, we don't have to know everything. The only thing that we need to know is that if there are two heterozygous individuals, for them dihybrid inheritance will result in a ratio of 9:3:3:1, where 9 parts will represent all the dominant characters. এখানে we were talking about two traits, so both dominant trait পাবে 9 parts, একটা dominant একটা recessive পাবে হচ্ছে গিয়ে 3 parts, একটা recessive একটা dominant পাবে হচ্ছে 3 parts, আর both recessive পাবে হচ্ছে গিয়ে 1 part. Let's break this down. Imagine we are talking about a fly. Now we know flies have wings. খেয়াল করে দেখবা যে fly এর wing pattern দুই রকম হয়. Wing length to be more precise. দুই রকম হয়. It can either have long wings or it can have short vestigial wings. Now for long wings, this is the dominant and it is represented by the allele capital L. For vestigial wing, it is recessive as marked by the small letter L. And we say that in case of dihybrid inheritance, কয়টা trait থাকবে? দুইটা. So একটা trait আমরা পাইলাম which is the wing, size of the wing. আরেকটা trait হচ্ছে গিয়ে body color. দুইটা trait কি related না unrelated totally? Totally unrelated. So this is one feature of dihybrid inheritance বা digenic inheritance, যে দুইটা trait নিয়ে আমরা ডিসকাস করব, but the traits are unrelated. Okay, so the second trait is about body color. You might have gray color, which is the dominant, or you might have ebony or black color, which is represented by small g. Now we know about Punnett squares. We have done it in O levels. So welcome to the big brother of Punnett square in AS. Punnett square, but it is too complicated to make your life worse. Now, just like we did Punnett square earlier in O levels, একই জিনিস আমরা করব, but this time it will appear twice. So let's start with this one, parental phenotype. So for this one, you have a long-winged and gray body parent. And remember, we said earlier, this ratio only works for heterozygous individuals, which means this individual, it has a capital L and small l, but since capital L is dominant and it represents long wing, that's why the parent had long wings. Also, the parent has gray body, but since it has to be heterozygous, he has both set of gene, that is capital G and small g. Okay, and the other one, again, this person is also a heterozygous individual, which means this person will also have long wing and gray body. Now let's think of the gametes they are going to produce. Since they are both heterozygous, so they are going to produce all the possible variations of gametes, which means capital L, capital G, capital L, small g, small l, capital G, and small l, small g. Shortcut variation, however. Second parent is also going to produce the same thing. Now that we have the gametes, let's arrange them in the pattern of the Punnett square. Up to this point, কোনো question আছে? Any confusions? এইটুকু কিভাবে হয়েছে বুঝতে পারছো? Okay. So now let's arrange these according to the Punnett square. So immediately you can see that there will be one individual who is going to inherit capital L, capital L, capital G, and so on. Punnett square কিভাবে add up করতে হয়, we know that. Okay. So the next thing you will notice is that we say that after arranging it in a Punnett square, we are going to get a result which is going to reflect a ratio of 9:3:3:1, where 9 parts will have dominant features or will have dominant phenotypes. 1 part will have all recessive phenotype, and 3 part will have half recessive and half dominant features. For example, in this particular case, what is the dominant phenotype for wing type? Long. And what is the dominant feature for color? Phenotype for color? Gray. So 9 individuals will end up with long wings and gray bodies. For the same ratio, or for the same cross, what are the recessive features in case of length, wing length, vestigial wing, or the short wings? And what is the recessive feature of color? Ebony. So vestigial wing and ebony body will be inherited by 1 part of the offsprings. And for the mixtures, একটা হবে long wing with ebony body, আর একটা হবে হচ্ছে গিয়ে vestigial wing with gray body. So they will arise at a ratio of 3:3. So that's how digenic or dihybrid inheritance is acquired. Any questions? Okay, yes. No. Okay, so to review about digenic dihybrid inheritance, প্রথম কথা হচ্ছে we are talking about how many traits? 2. And are they related or unrelated? Unrelated. And what is the ratio? 9:3:3:1. The parents, are they homozygous or heterozygous? One heterozygous or both heterozygous? Both of them should be heterozygous. And coming back, yes? No. They can breed definitely, but they are not going to end up with this ratio. That will be a different ratio. And we ratio on the syllabus, we just have to know what is the result of cross between 2 heterozygous individuals. Okay, coming back to the ratio, what does 9 represent? All dominant features. So phenotypes with all dominant features. What does 1 represent? And what does 3 represent? 1 dominant feature, 1 recessive feature. Clear? Here is another example of dihybrid inheritance. This time we are again talking about 2 different genes. The first one is gene for abdomen. Capital B represents broad abdomen and small b represents narrow abdomen. And the second gene is about the wings. Capital L represents long wings and small l represents vestigial wing. Now, in order for the 9:3:3:1 ratio to arise, both parent has to be heterozygous. So let's think about 2 parents who are both heterozygous. We can see capital B, small b, capital L, small l, and this one is also the same. So if we rearrange the gamete patterns, we are going to get this, and this individual will also produce similar gametes, and if we put them into a Punnett square, we will end up with a 9:3:3:1 ratio. This time, 9 represents the dominant features, which are broad abdomen and long wing. 1 represents the recessive feature, which are, in this case, narrow abdomen and vestigial wing. And the 3 ratios indicate either broad abdomen, vestigial wing, or narrow abdomen and long wings. So, heterozygous individual, in case of dihybrid cross, producing a 9:3:3:1 pattern. It's any kind of confusion, sir. Do you agree with this? But the problem is, this is AS, and your life is about to get more complicated. Because of that, actually, theoretically, it should have been a ratio of 9:3:3:1. But in reality, তুমি যদি আসলে experiment করতে, you would end up with a 3:1 ratio, where 3 parts would reflect broad abdomen, long wing, 1 part would represent narrow abdomen, long wing. Now, instead of getting that, why are we getting this? Definitely ঝামেলা আছে। সবই ঠিক আছে, but then কেন আমরা এটা, why did we end up with this one? The answer lies in the arrangement of the gene within the chromosome. এর আগে আমরা একটা কথা বলছিলাম যে the parents has to be heterozygous and the genes has to be unrelated. And the feature about unrelated genes is that they are either located in separate chromosomes অথবা they are located in the same chromosome but at different loci far away from each other. That is, for example, this one, these two. They are located in the same chromosome, but দেখো distance অনেক বেশি। এই ধরনের যদি হইতো তাহলে আমরা ঠিকই ওই 9:3:3:1 ratioটা পাইতাম। But the problem with this one is that when we talk about the gene for abdomen and gene for wing length, they are located in very close proximity. Because of that, instead of working or acting or behaving as 2 separate genes, these 2 genes act as the same gene. এই কারণে ওরা ডাইহাইব্রিড ইনহেরিটেন্সের ওই 9:3:3:1 প্যাটার্নটা ফলো করে না। Understood? So bottom line is that in order to show that dihybrid inheritance pattern, the genes has to be either located in separate chromosomes, or if they are located in the same chromosome, their locus should be further apart. And unrelated genes are also located either further apart or in separate chromosomes. If 2 set of genes, even they are inherently unrelated, if they are located within close proximity, they will start acting like the same gene. Or at least they are going to show the same inheritance pattern. Clear? এটা নিয়ে কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে? এটা আমরা ওইভাবেই জানবো, আমরা ক্রস করাইতে হবে। We have to perform that experiment. আমরা যদি দেখি যে yes, আসলে ওই 9:3:3:1 প্যাটার্ন আসতেছে, then we can be sure যে they are quite separated. But যদি দেখি যে ওই প্যাটার্নটা ফলো করতেছে না, তার মানে the 2 genes are somehow linked. And the possibility is very high that they are located very close together. আচ্ছা, এটা ছাড়াও এখন modern day we have the room for genetic analysis, ওইভাবেও আমরা directly we can visualize them within the chromosome. Understood? না বুঝলেও কোনো সমস্যা নেই, এখান থেকে গত 10 বছরের কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আসেনি। আমি জাস্ট যেহেতু এটার মধ্যে বইয়ের মধ্যে এই জিনিসটা আছে, আমি জাস্ট বলে রাখলাম যাতে কোনোভাবে যদি আসে, অথবা এখন না আসলেও যদি তুমি ইউনিভার্সিটিতে গিয়ে এনকাউন্টার করো, এটা যে কান্নাকাটি না করতে হয়।